Oh man. This ranking was actually very, very tough. Don't mind if my light shakes. This is MykeCheck'd here, finishing off the Spider-Man series with the Spider-Man rankings. So I would have done the same thing that I've done in the last review, but there are 11 movies to rank, and this is the reason why my light keeps shaking. This is Fury. You met her in the last video. She's wild, she's crazy, and she likes to play with everything. You're fine. Okay, so yeah, there's 11 movies. I decided to include Morbius in this whole jangled mess because technically it is a Spider-Man movie. And she's off again. Before I get into the bottom of the barrel, there was actually 2 films on this list that I thought were actually complete garbage or could have been rewritten in so many better ways. The rest either could use some work or pretty good to really, really, really fucking good. Bottom of the barrel, number 11, goes to The Amazing Spider-Man 2 for obvious reasons. Too much stuff going on in the movie, and just at least, like I said in the review of The Amazing Spider-Man 2, it would take me probably 3 weeks and probably more than 15 viewings of this film to try to rewrite this entire movie to make it work better, because it's going to take more than 3 movies to fix this movie. But the only shining grace in this film was Electro, and that light wasn't bright enough to keep it out of the bottom of the list. So Amazing Spider-Man 2, you suck. Number 10 goes to Spider-Man 3. Spider-Man 3 basically commits the same sin as Amazing Spider-Man 2, but not as bad. They were trying to put too many storylines into one movie, and it didn't work. Luckily, I was actually able to piece together a new trilogy coming out of Spider-Man 3, which makes it more cohesive and cohesive and coherent story. But there's more elements of Spider-Man 3 that are more likable than Amazing Spider-Man 2, which kind of gives Amazing Spider-Man 3 that edge. But it's still garbage. This is better garbage. Moving on to the not so much garbage, but films that might need a little bit of work. Number 9 actually goes to the film that the audience member here has not seen yet, Morbius. So I'm not going to get into that many spoilers. Long story short, just to keep the spoilers spoiler-free, my review says it all. I'm just going to say that COVID and reshoots did this movie in. It's still likable if you can find the parts that you like. But they did not commit the same sin as the last 2 films did. It's one cohesive storyline. Number 8 actually goes to The Amazing Spider-Man, the first one. Not a bad film. Like I said in the review before, I actually enjoyed it a lot more than I thought I did when I watched it a second time a little bit younger. It's just, I can't really get behind a dark, edgy, cool kid, Peter Parker, that Andrew Garfield tried to portray in his 2 movies. Can't really get behind that. It seems a little bit over the top. It's what they wanted to do. That's my main problem. Plus, the main villain's plan in Amazing Spider-Man to turn everyone into a fucking lizard. Number 7. This film is kind of far down the list. It's not the film's fault. I think it's just for the fact that it's kind of outdated compared to the rest of these movies. And there's some parts of it that didn't age well, but it still has that nostalgia value to enjoy it. Number 7 has to go to the original Spider-Man. And it's not because the film is bad. It's just because compared to all the other films on this list, this is the most outdated movie out of all of them. And comparing them side by side to all the other ones, it has a lot of early 2000s stuff that worked back then, but looking at it in a 2020 era, it's just like, what? But again, not a bad movie. I actually like that. It's just, it's a little outdated. Number 6, this is where it started to get really tough. Really tough for me. These last 6 films got really tough for me to go for. I'm gonna have to give number 6 to Venom, Let There Be Carnage. and it's my only problems with it is there needs that the movie itself needs more to it. It feels like it got cut down to shreds. COVID. And it needs to be rated R. Let There Be Carnage feels like a shorter film than the first Venom movie is, and that's the only thing that I'm just kind of like, it needs that extra 30 or 40 minutes to kind of give the movie more beef, give the characters more, I guess, dynamic-y instead of what we got. But at the same time, what we got, or what they were working with, and what we got, it still worked. I liked it. It still got a pretty high rating. It's just, I wish it was a little bit longer. Sorry. Number 5. Shockingly, I'm giving it to Spider-Man Homecoming. Good origin story. Good start. I'm glad they didn't redo the Uncle Ben dying scene again. It's just a typical origin story for Spider-Man and the trilogy. I do like Homecoming more than this one, but number 4 is Spider-Man Far From Home because of the writing of these two Spider-Man films. They're so great. They come close on the rankings, but number 4 goes to Far From Home. This is where it got a little more tough. Because if you can do the math, you know what last 3 movies are left in this rankings. Number 3 has to go to Venom. Comparing it to the other 2 films, it's too short. The writing needs to be a hair better. Think about this. There's 11 movies on this list. This is in the top 3. Of all 11 movies, it's in the top 3. That's a good sign. And people will probably say that I'm ranking Venom too high and that's actually trash and yada yada yada, or the sequel is better, but I think Venom is a very great, fantastic film for what they gave us. It is great. Yes, the CGI is better in the second movie, but for this one, I like it more than Let There Be Carnage by a little bit because, again, the same reasons why Let There Be Carnage is where it's at. Rating change, more movie length. It's all the 2 Venom films need. Number 2 goes to Spider-Man 2. It's a great film. It is by far one of the greatest sequel comic book films of all time. And storyline wise, when it comes to villains, this is probably one of my favorite villain arcs in probably the majority of these Spider-Man movies, is Dr. Octavius' story in this movie. It is so dramatic, so heart-wrenching, but you kind of get that redemption arc at the end. We'll get to that in a second. It's great. It still kind of has that early 2000s feeling where it feels a bit outdated, but just the story itself, the choreographing, the fighting, the train scene, it's so iconic, and that's why it gets number 2, which should make it pretty obvious that number 1 goes to Spider-Man No Way Home. It's a redemption story, a redemption arc for all 3 of the Spider-Man series. All of the villains in the movie. The writing is 10 times better than the original 2, like, Holland Spider-Man films. And it just blends together so well. And it leaves you at a cliffhanger as to what's going to happen next. Like, is there going to be a Venom problem in the next Holland Spider-Man film? And where the hell did Tom Hardy's Venom go? Written so well, and it left a perfect cliffhanger to continue on the series. So that is my Spider-Man series ranking. How controversial is it? Let's ask the audience. How controversial? Very.
I don't agree.
You don't agree? What do you think? This is wrong. Which one?
First, both.
Where they're at?
Yeah.
This is my Spider-Man rankings. This is my Check 95. And I'm finally done with Spider-Man. Now we just gotta worry about getting those fucking Terminator ones done.